All right, joining us, Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty. As the county attorney, she is the chief executive of Minnesota's largest public law office. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your show.
I'm curious about that statement that Tom Homan just made. He says he believes the officer thought his life was in danger, and that justifies him from using force. But then he goes on to say in the same sentence, same breath, let the investigation play out. How do those two statements, do they work together from a public official?
From a public official who isn't a prosecutor or an investigator of this situation, I think it's incredibly important for those of us who are in positions where we are investigating or making decisions about potential criminal offenses that we not be arriving at conclusions before we have seen the evidence. So it's problematic from that aspect.
He also says that the investigation involves a federal officer, so it is a federal investigation done, that the state has no business being in it. Do you agree?
Absolutely not. Whatever happened here, a federal officer, federal law enforcement agent took the life of a woman who, in Hennepin County in Minnesota. We have jurisdiction at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office over that. Now, certainly the FBI can and should do a full investigation as to whether there are any potential federal charges or policy violations. At the same time, we at the state level and our BCA, our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, should be able to be part of that investigation, or at least be given transparency from that investigation so that we at the Hennepin County Attorney's Office can make a decision about whether charges should be filed or not.
Do you foresee the Supremacy Clause getting in your way at all if you do still pursue a state investigation?
Yes. I mean, there are different things here. In terms of investigation, what we had asked for and what we had an agreement from the federal government is that the BCA would be allowed to be part of a joint investigation. And then abruptly they changed their minds. The issue with that is that in my experience with the FBI here, they are very cooperative with us. However, when they do their own investigations, they don't give that file to us. And even when they talk to us about what their conclusion is, we or I would not be able to talk transparently to the public about what we saw here. And so the issue is we need our state BCA to be able to have access to that file. We need the BCA to be able to give us whatever information that they have so that we can make a decision as to whether there should be charges here. We absolutely have jurisdiction here, and you're right. Should we file charges, I do expect there to be challenges under the Supremacy Clause and a request to remove it to federal court. But that doesn't mean we don't have jurisdiction and that we don't need to be as transparent as we can for both our community and the entire country.
Why don't you trust the FBI to do this on their own?
It's not that I don't trust the FBI, and I've been very clear about the fact that the FBI can do its investigation. The issue here is transparency. Even if they do the entire investigation, all that we are asking for is that our state BCA have access to that investigation. Otherwise, we at the county attorney's office won't be able to see what their investigation was about, nor will we be able to talk about it publicly. And so it's not about trust. The federal government has every interest in doing their own investigation, coming up with their own conclusions, just as we have every interest in having access to that investigation or having our own BCA do an investigation so that that entire file can be presented to us at the county attorney's office. And what we would do is take a look at it to see, do we have enough information here to charge? Should there be charges or should there not be charges? And the critical piece here is that whatever that decision is, it needs to be accompanied by transparency. The public demands, here particularly in the wake of George Floyd, to understand exactly what the evidence said. And so I would need to be able to talk about that. And in any decision that I made, I would need to be able to talk about it transparently. And I would think that that's what we all want in a situation like this.
I wonder if the administration had not come out with the definitive statements arguing what they believe happened, that Renee Nicole Good was a domestic terrorist, that she was a leftist insurrectionist, that she was clearly trying to run the officer over with her car. Had they not come out so quickly, and in the case of Kristi Noem, it was 2 hours, And had they kept a conclusion to themselves and did allow the investigation to take place before determining anything, would you feel more comfortable with the FBI taking the lead?
I feel comfortable with the FBI taking the lead as long as they give our BCA access to their entire investigation.
Okay, let me ask it again.
Yes.
I know what you're going to say there. So would you feel more comfortable with the FBI doing this alone?
No. And the issue is not about trust of the FBI. The issue is about transparency. If they do it alone and we don't have access to it, none of us will ever know what the facts were that the investigation revealed. None of us will know maybe even about a decision or why that decision was made. And that has to be unacceptable to anyone, especially people who want there to be trust in a thorough investigation and a conclusion that's thoroughly justified by whatever the facts are.
Have you gathered enough evidence so far to bring charges? Is the evidence that you have seen already out there, is that enough to bring charges, state charges against this officer?
So my role here as Hennepin County Attorney is to be as objective as possible until we can see all of the evidence, or at least the evidence that we're going to get. And as you know, we've seen videos come out. We saw another one come out this weekend. And each piece of evidence gives us a different aspect of what happened here. And so what we are trying to do, and we've created this portal, as you know, so people can submit potential evidence and videos, is to take a look at everything that we get. And at that point, we are going to decide, do we have enough here to make a decision? And then if we do believe we have enough to make a decision, should there be charges or not? I think people should remember, too, our role is to decide whether we can bring criminal charges, which means that we would believe that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime occurred here. So that is our role.
There was another angle of the video, I think you just referenced it, that DHS posted today, and it gives us a little bit more of the context about what led up to this shooting. And it appears to show Renee Nicole Good in her car blocking traffic and laying on her horn for quite some time. The administration says this is proof that she was stalking and impeding law enforcement. Does that change the circumstances surrounding the shooting?
No. In fact, that video actually adds a few dimensions. For people not familiar with Minneapolis and that particular street that she was on, she's actually not blocking the entire road. She's sitting in the bike lane, and there's a buffer lane on the other side of that. One thing you can see in this video is that the person who ultimately shot her does drive around her car to the opposite side. And then another agent drives up, and you can see her waving that ICE car to go around her. And that person chooses to stop. So that just adds additional information here. You can also, as you're showing the video to your viewers, see that whatever the ICE was doing was at the other end of the block, and she was substantially further down the block. So every time we get a video like that or additional information, we're taking all of that information into consideration.
That's really interesting. Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, thank you very much for giving us your time. I know you're extremely busy, but we do appreciate you coming on.